Hi everyone. In today's video, we're going to have this special guest from US, and her name is Melissa. She's a librarian, she's an author, and she holds a PhD. Welcome, Melissa.
Thank you.
We went to the same class, PTYA, Time YouTube Academy, and
hmm
we learned a lot from there. Maybe perhaps Melissa can talk about your channel and your background.
Oh, sure.
Please tell more about yourself.
Okay. Yep. So I have a PhD in international development, and I'm a librarian, and I'm also a college professor. I teach humanities classes and have been over the years, and a couple other classes here and there. Probably like everybody, I watched YouTube here and there over the years, and then the pandemic hit. And so, I had a lot more time in front of the computer on my hands, and so my YouTube viewing went way up. um, and I started watching Ollie's videos. I was looking back at my history, probably like 4 years ago. So pre-pandemic, 4 or 5 years ago. Have you noticed his early videos? There's ones where he's singing, ones where he's like during tours, because he was still a college student at Oxford. So his earlier videos are not quite the slick operation that he's got going now. So those are really interesting. If you go to his page, they're really hard to find actually on his website, on his YouTube page. So if you go into the search field and you put in like 2016, 2017, 2015, you can pull up all of his old videos, because YouTube does not make it easier to search for old videos. They want all the new content. So that's sort of I found Ali and all his really nice videos, like so years and years ago, and have been slowly watching them. I'm a weird YouTube watcher. I don't think I'm what their demographic is looking for, because if I find a channel, then I watch like all the videos from that creator, or almost all of them, because I like to go back in their back history to see what they've had, what they've created, and then watch them. And that's not kind of what their typical YouTuber looks at. For making videos wise, I've always sort of made just sort of like little snippets here and there. And I had an original YouTube channel. I was looking back in like 2010 or something. But anything that you could do wrong on YouTube, I have done wrong on YouTube. So when I had this channel like back in 2010, and I would post video of concerts, and you're not really supposed to do that because of all the copyright issues that come up here
Oh,
and there. So
okay.
yeah, so I was getting all these copyright strikes, but I'm like, yeah, it really didn't matter. And I had all these other videos and posted, and just weird things, and then I decided I wanted to start creating YouTube videos, just some really good ones. And that was probably about 2 years ago or something like that. Yeah, about two-ish. At maybe more towards the beginning of the pandemic. So a little over 2 years ago, 2, 3, whatever it is now. So I started to think about it, and I created a new account, and I just got rid of that old account, because I decided if I ever wanted to turn it into a business, I didn't want that old account being attached to me or linked to me anyhow, anyway, in any form.
Okay.
So I transferred over the videos that I wanted, actually to 3 different accounts, 3 brand new accounts that I created. And I'm like, okay, so like one that I would like do about books and reading, and learning and education, that sort of thing. And then one on aviation, one of my other passions. And then like one with all my family crazy videos. So that my mom and the relatives would be happy. And then I deleted out that old account. So, and all those old videos on there. So they're like gone forever.
And
And
they,
then
they
I
won't be
decided,
entertained anymore. Your family won't be entertained anymore.
exactly. Well, I've been adding them slowly here and there, and they've got links, so they're just not listed anymore. So they're happy; they can access them, and so not a problem. And then I decided, well, having 3 accounts is really stressful, and there's a reason why you shouldn't do that. So I decided about a year, maybe a year ago, less than a year ago, I'm going to combine 2 YouTube accounts. And that does not work. So when I tried to combine 2 YouTube accounts, it deletes everything on that one account. So
Oh my
I figured
god.
2 accounts would merge nicely, and you'd get both videos on from both accounts onto one account. No. And I found like instructions online how to do it. And so I don't know if one time YouTube let you do that, but they don't let you do that now. There's no seamless
Mm.
process for this whole thing. So I lost a lot of videos that way, which, okay, it's sort of a live and learn sort of thing. But you lose the video, you lose all the comments, you lose all the numbers, all the statistics, and all the analytics, everything. So then I had to go around trying to find, because there were some that I really liked. So I had to go around and try to find those old videos and recreate them and try to think, what captions did I have? And
Mm.
yeah, that was crazy. So I did that wrong too. And so I've been slow. So I sort of kept what I wanted to, and then decided I was just letting the rest go. And I saw Ollie's post from when he was first during the first wave of his YouTube Academy. I saw that come in and then go, and I was like, oh, I should do that. That looks really fun. I'll learn a lot. And I was like, I got other stuff going on. And then it got up to his latest cohort, number 8, and the first email that he had sent out said was he was going to stop it for 2 years. And I was like, ooh. And then I was like, okay, let me think about it. And then there was another email post that said, this is the last one. And I was like, if I'm ever going to do it and take the plunge and get more serious about it than just, randomly posting things, this was the time. And so that's how I sort of got into this cohort. I just finally took the plunge. And I think a lot of people did too. A lot of other creators who took his class, they saw that, oh my God, this is the last Ollie class. So I better sort of do something. And I wonder how one it was versus 8 and how much it has changed over the last couple years. Because he seems really busy now versus I wonder if in the first one he was there like 24/7. Because he would only
Yeah,
do like one or
yeah.
two things towards the end there. And is
And
that
the
sort of like
cohort
your?
eight, he has a lot of helpers, I think,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's got a
assistants.
big production.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just crazy. Is that sort of how your YouTube story is? You sort of decided to get into this cohort. You decided that because this was going to be the last one.
Yeah, and I actually started like 3 years ago, and then
Hmm.
I got serious last year. So I keep on like putting contents like at weekly, and then I saw this. I was actually this year I was looking for something that one step further to advance another level. So I saw this course, Ali's course, looks
Hmm.
good, and then I saw the review was okay. Then I just decide why not? Yeah.
So
So
did it change how you sort of do YouTube videos then?
yeah, my YouTube, the way I do YouTube is like more structured. The way that Ali taught us, like all the steps,
Hmm.
especially scripting, the way we
Yeah,
make videos. Yeah, then the importance of thumbnails. I,
I
I
know,
wasn't,
right?
I wasn't. Yeah, yeah. I was like just keep on putting videos. Before that, it's like without direction.
Yeah, it's sort of like you get traumatized enough, sort of like creating the video, and then you have to think, oh no, I have to create a thumbnail. And that's sort of like, oh my God, what to do with a thumbnail? And is it right? And because, they're, they could be such a time suck, basically. They just consume your whole life.
Yeah, and that 4 weeks is like so compact. Like almost every day you have classes. Like,
I know. There's too much because I did all the previous classes before the class started. So like,
uh-huh.
the pre-start or whatever. So I did all those videos. So and that was like 1 or 2 weeks ahead of time. I was doing stuff every day for that, and then it officially started. So I'm like, oh my gosh. So by the time week four, which I had been doing it week 6 weeks then, so it was just getting way crazy. Yeah, it's a lot. And then you're trying to make videos and you're like, it's so overwhelming. And I'm like, it's and they said that. They're like, we're gonna throw a lot of stuff at you. I'm like, yeah, bring it on. And it was a lot of information and a lot of content and a lot of things. I'm like, well, maybe this won't be good for now, but maybe in like 6 months down the road, it'll be just
Yeah.
perfect. And so I sort of know it exists there on the course page because you can go back and look. And I think that's probably one of the most helpful things that's going to come about in the next like 6 months to a year. I'll be able to go back and watch the content again, sort of like calm down, like with more like a really good firm grasp of what's going on and what I need to do to get to A to B to C. Because before I was all over there. So
So, like moving forward,
Mhm.
how can this class help you in your career as a librarian? Like, how do you make use of this YouTube?
No, not yet. It's just for me. Maybe one day. Yeah, well, actually, I've been sort of thinking about maybe a paper or two or a poster or something on it. So in my professional career, I don't think it has. I think it's going to be a nice little side project, a side business right now. And then over the next couple of years, I'll sort of grow it and expand it and sort of refine it a little bit more here and there. So I'm hoping going forward, in the future, it'll pay off more than it does now. Learning, there's just so much now.
And you wrote your first book on, I think, if I'm not mistaken, on a mosque in one of the states in US.
Yeah, in Minnesota, Minnesota has a thriving Muslim community, and they've been creating masjids, for the last couple of years. And it was on. I started researching it back in '06, '07, right around there. So actually, I was going to write it on some mosques in Guyana, down in South America. And I traveled down
Mm-hmm.
there and toured a bunch of mosques. Oh my gosh, so beautiful! They're very reminiscent of mosques from India, and I also
Mm-hmm.
toured a bunch of Hindu temples and stuff. Beautiful country. And then got back and presented to my committee, and they're like, no. And so I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'll see if I can come up with a topic, something here locally then in Minnesota. And I found this wonderful, beautiful mosque called the Masjid Al Nur, and they had built from the ground up. So they were the first mosque in Minnesota that was specifically created for a mosque. And so they have a minaret, and a non-functioning minaret, but incredibly beautiful. And yeah, they were really nice when here I come in asking them all these questions, and they were so nice. So it was a
And
really good project. And then I wrote a couple articles on different mosques in Minnesota. So then I sort of combined all that data and information that I wrote and published a book on it.
and actually, how many mosques in Minnesota?
Oh gosh. So when I was originally researching it, there were probably 20 something.
Oh,
And
okay.
I know that number has grown now. Original mosques that were created as a mosque, I don't know if there's maybe another one or two, if that. Usually the community that's creating the mosque is renting out the space, usually in like a commercial area, a business area, business setting, or they're getting a space from somebody's allowing them to come in to use that area as a masjid. Other ones have, which is really interesting, but you see this all around the world. They've come in and they buy out like a church. There's been a couple
Mm-hmm.
different churches in Minnesota that Muslim communities have purchased over the years, and
Oh,
one
okay.
it, and I forget the name right now, but the Muslim community in that neighborhood came in and bought out a church, and the church is very Scandinavian. I think it was a Lutheran church, so it looks like it's very Norwegian, very
Uh-huh.
Norwegian, Swedish, and the inside looks like the inside from like a Viking ship.
Uh-huh.
And it's like all
Oh.
this light wood, and it's sort of like the ribs on a ship, like how they used to make them. It's just gorgeous, and it looks like Lutheran church from the outside, but there's all these little like crescents now, and sort of it's green on there, or at least when I had toured it years ago, and it's just as beautiful, and a really good community, and that's the wonderful thing about the Muslim communities in Minnesota. They're really part of the communities that they enter. So a very positive influence. And
Is it the biggest community in US
no,
in Minnesota?
there's a large community out in Chicago, and in New York, and also
Mm.
out in Los Angeles. Yeah, so a smaller community, and there have been different waves of immigrants, Muslim immigrants that have come in. There was like originally like Egyptians that came in. Now we have a lot of Somali
Mm-hmm.
immigrants, and so just these different immigrant groups. But we also have like Hmong immigrants and Vietnamese immigrants, and so
Mm.
the food in Minnesota is awesome because a lot of them open up restaurants and
Oh,
really
okay.
good food, which is important, as you know.
Yeah, yeah. Like for Indonesia, we have lots of mosques as well.
Hmm.
Yeah, and Indonesia is the fourth populous Muslim country in the world.
Hmm.
Have you been to Indonesia?
No, not yet though.
Mm,
One day, hopefully.
so we have lots of mosques there. So maybe you can have your research here in Indonesia.
Exactly. That would be wonderful.
So besides that, what sort of research that you do currently? Do you do any
Oh, currently.
projects now?
That's a good question. So I'm turning my dissertation into a book, which is what usually you
Okay.
do. You write a dissertation, then you got to do something with it because it's just sitting there. I say it's sitting there on my desk, sort of judging me to do something. And it's been looking at me for a couple of years now. I graduated in 2021 during the middle of the pandemic, and there's nothing worse than trying to write a PhD dissertation in the middle of a pandemic. But hey, one of those live and learn sort of situations. So my PhD dissertation was on drones and the perception of U.S. military drones in different countries around the world. So I looked at England, the UK, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, along with the United States, and sort of looking at the both conservative and the liberal sides of both of these countries and how they viewed United States drones and the war that was pretty much going on. The time frame was sort of in the middle of the war in Afghanistan and Iraq. So that was interesting. So a very sort of horrible subject that I was trying to write. And so I was reading all these articles from newspapers and governments and NGOs, non-governmental organizations, about this really sort of sad, very heavy topic during the middle of a pandemic. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it was too much at a lot. So it took me a little bit longer than it should have, but because the material was just, really sad. But I got done. And so now I'm trying to turn it into a book. So that's my project for the spring, just to get it off. And then I'm sort of working on a couple other little projects here and there, and a couple things on the backfire, as it were, and a couple other books that I've just started to think about and to sort of flesh out, and I've gotten as far as like a title. So hey, that's one step in the right direction, and 10 years I will have completed a book.
You can use ChatGPT now to check on the titles, the best
I
titles.
should.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of know what's out there. There are kind of on topics that I'm really interested in. One's on U.S. presidents, kind of a history buff, so I'm sort of looking at that. Another one is on an article that I'm writing is about Sherlock Holmes, which I'm interested in Sherlock Holmes and the books, but also that Sir Arthur Conan Doyle wrote. But also they're called pastiches. What other people write about, the stories and mysteries with Sherlock Holmes, that sort of stuff. But the Sherlock Holmes community is huge all over the world. I never knew this up to a couple of years ago. There are Sherlock Holmes organizations in every country, and probably hundreds of thousands of books out there on Sherlock Holmes and different aspects. And
What's your favorite genre that you're into
oh gosh,
from reading? It's reading.
I don't know. I always say I don't read fiction, and then I do read a lot. I read weirdly. So I'll find an author I like, and then I'll like read everything that they've written. And that usually sort of tumbles into another area. And so I've been rearranging books and everything, and just sort of like cleaning, spring cleaning, as it were, bookshelves. I have this bookshelf and behind me and a couple other ones around the house. And so it's sort of shuffling things off. I'm a big mystery reader, sci-fi. Those are the big two, like fiction sort of genres I would. But then if something else comes around, I'll read it. Otherwise, I'm a huge history buff. History, world history. What else? Biographies. Basically, if it looks interesting.
Archaeology?
Yep. Still. So I was originally going to be an archaeologist when I was a little kid. And so that's what I originally went to college for archaeology. And then decided I don't like working outside in the cold. If you're in the Midwest in the United States, you're going to be out in the cold if you want a full-time sort of job. And that just wasn't me. So then I went into libraries, and that's how I got into the libraries. There are a bunch of different fields that you can go into. You can go into public libraries. You can go into libraries for like K through 12. So all the little kids. You can go into specialized libraries and corporations. You can go into archives, and you can go into like academia, so college and university libraries. And so that's the direction that my career has taken. I've worked in quite a few different academic libraries, and the best thing
Like,
about working in a library in a college, this is the hint. If you work in a college or university, at least I know in most colleges and universities in the United States, is if you're a full-time employee, you can take free classes, free or
oh,
nearly free. Uh-huh. As a full-time staff, they allow you to take classes. So that's
okay.
awesome. The college and university, that's just part of your employment package. You could take classes forever if you wanted to. That,
Like,
and then it's called interlibrary. The other thing, actually, in locally in the libraries, is interlibrary loan.
mm-hmm.
You probably encountered this
Loan,
in
library
Indonesia.
loan. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So where you can get request books from anywhere in the world.
Uh-huh.
It's an awesome service. So colleges and universities are usually the big ones that to deal with this. But so if you want a book, if I wanted a book that my library, I work for the University of Minnesota. If we didn't have it, they would send out for it. So they check locally in the sort of this area of the United States, Wisconsin or the Dakotas, and if they didn't have it, then they would go further afield. They check, Chicago or like California, UCLA, Berkeley. They'd or they try like Harvard or the Smithsonian. And then if they didn't have it, they could even try further out, like Oxford or Paris. Or I've seen things come in from Paris. I've seen things come in, from all over the world. So, and it's colleges and universities no longer. If you're a full time current employee, they don't charge you for it, or employee or student. You're usually not charged for it. So it's a wonderful service, that students don't realize it's quite there. Students are, don't take advantage of what they should while they're in college. They're too busy, I would say they're too busy partying, which is probably true. But, they have to take so many classes these days because it's so expensive. They're usually just trying to get through the system, and they don't have time for all that fun reading and research that they should be doing. But
For now, like the trend is we are moving towards digital books. Like, is
mhm.
there a change in behavior of the readers or usage of the library?
um,
Because previously, last time library is like we read physical books.
mhm.
Like now it's like all digital ebook or audible.
Yeah. Well, in a lot of colleges and universities, usually they don't get like fun fiction as an ebook. A few have started a little bit here or there, but if they're buying an ebook, they're buying like a textbook.
Mm-hmm.
And the publishers, the publishing industry for is just sort of evil, to put a nice word on it. So we could order the library, any library in general. You could order one textbook, and it's going to cost you $10,000.
Wow.
I know, which is insane, because a publisher says, well, you're going to have that book for that ebook for the next 10, 20 years. And so, you're not going to be ordering any other ones. And they only give you what's called a seat. So every time you buy a book, you get, even if it's a digital book, you get a seat. So only one person at one person at a time can read an ebook. Even though an ebook, it's just it's digital. So you could have, and technically you should be able to have as many people that want to read that book reading that book.
Yeah.
But that's not how publishing works in academia. So they're just the prices are insane. And if you work in a library, you can't really go an academic library. Usually you can't go to like a bookstore or Amazon or something, or for a few things, but usually you have to get, a license, you work with publishers. There's a lot of hoops and things you need to go through. And so to make it more difficult and a lot more expensive. So I think people do read a little bit different. When you get a textbook in the university or college library, usually it comes in like a PDF format, and a lot of times you don't get the whole thing. You get like, you can access a chapter at a time. Where's the fun in that? At least if you would get it, you could download it on your Kindle or whatever. But usually it's
Yeah.
so quite restrictive on those types of books that, you know, hard to take notes. But I think, younger generations that are coming up through, as undergraduates now, that's sort of kind of always what they've known. I think they're learning differently. Certainly they're reading different. I'm a weird reader, and I'm a librarian, so I sort of know the ins and outs of things. And I like books. I like the physical aspect of the book, the hard copy, the hardcover, the feel of the paper.
Same.
It's a textile thing, a
Yeah,
tactile
you
thing.
can actually hold it and then feel it,
Yep, exactly. Yeah, I mean, a Kindle versus a book. I mean, I use my Kindle a lot. I love
Yeah.
my Kindle, especially when I'm reading a really thick book like Game of Thrones. That's like a 1,000-page book, and it's really heavy on your hands. But you can really read fast with a Kindle. But for other things, I like a good paperback and a hardcover in this case, and I'll get an autograph, and so I think that's why I buy hard copies these days. If it's something that I'm going to read or reread, or I can get an autographed copy, that's sort of why. Otherwise, I'll just get it on the Kindle. If serious reading versus fun, fluffy reading, that's sort of the way I think these days. And plus, I have too many books, so I have to be a little bit more selective in my in my book buying. Too many books.
What about Audible?
I've only ever listened to one Audible book. It was a Star Trek book because they didn't make it as a book, and I wanted to read it. And I liked it, except for I really had to concentrate too much because I did other things while I was doing it because I listened to a lot of
Mhm.
podcasts. And so I'm like, I sort of treated
Mm.
it like a podcast and didn't treat it like a book. So I probably just should have sat there and listened to it, but it was a little bit more complicated than I was. So I didn't even add it to I've added it to my reading list, but I didn't add it to my number because I always try to read 100 books a year, which is a lot, but
Yeah,
it
that's
sort
a
of gets
lot.
you through
That's a
the
lot.
year. And a lot of times I don't make it, but that's like the ultimate goal. But I know people who read like 200 books a year. So I feel that I'm, a little, not quite as the big reader that I should sometimes. But yeah, the Audible is an interesting experience. I don't know if I liked it or not. Do you read a lot of Audible books or read a lot of
Uh,
books or?
yes, Audible. I do read a lot of Audibles because I travel a lot. I listen as I travel. I do read Kindle as well because I find that Kindle is not as physical books. You get to flip and
Mhm.
you get to flip through the pages that you want, and then
Yeah.
Kindle is like a bit, yeah, kind of very hustle.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I remember when the first Kindles came out, they were really big and really thick and bulky and everything, and I mean
yeah.
now they're getting pretty thin.
I got this
And
one, my
so
Kindle. Yeah.
yeah, nice. Yeah, I mean that's pretty thin. And I
Yeah.
suspect, in like 10 years they'll be thinner and smaller, probably the same price, because prices never change even as the technology gets thinner and faster. For traveling, yeah, every time I travel, I just take the Kindle now. I used to take like 5 or 6 books way down my backpack in my, suitcase. And so for traveling, this is like the best thing ever. Plus, you can hold thousands of books.
Yeah, actually, it's like everything in one Kindle. Like,
Hmm. Yeah.
yeah.
Except for the one bad thing that drives me absolutely insane. If there's a book that comes out in like the United Kingdom, in England, or like in Australia, you
Mhm.
can't go to like Amazon UK and buy the Kindle book
Oh,
because
really?
Kindles are very specific to the region for some
Uh-huh.
strange reason. I don't know. It must having to do with probably copyright and publishing agreements. So
Oh,
you can't buy a Kindle book from another country.
maybe it's like Amazon US that you cannot buy like Kindle in the UK because mine is UK. I my
Yeah.
account, yeah, Amazon UK.
So, because I've tried a couple times, and I think it always comes up because you have to
Oh,
put in
okay.
your address, of course, not available in your region. So then you either have to wait. So then what I do is, because I hate waiting for a book, I
Uh-huh.
should get a book right now. If it is published, it should be instantaneous to anybody in the world, is my theory. This really hit home when the Harry Potter books were first published.
Yeah.
Originally, they were just published in the UK. And so, and then there would be a year lag before they were published in the United States. So I was always getting the books shipped from England. because I'm like, I'm not gonna wait. Why should I wait? And this was really before, Amazon was super huge. So I was ordering from a couple different bookstores. And so if it's a hard physical copy, I will, make that extra effort and, order from, some sort of bookstore across the oceans and get my book. It takes like probably a week or 2 weeks to get there because of the mail. And it costs more, but at least, if you're waiting for a really good book, you shouldn't wait. Life is way too short. Is
Yeah,
my theory
true.
on that.
Yeah. Have you tried like register separately Amazon different account, like one in US or maybe another one in UK, another one in
Yeah, I'd have to
Australia?
have a UK address though. And so you probably have to have a physical UK address.
But can it
I
send to US? Like maybe you can have a Amazon UK but delivered to US. Is it possible?
I don't know. I'll have to, because I can get physical books, but I just don't know about the ebooks. Every time I've tried, it's just, been with my regular account. I don't know if there's a workaround, like a VPN sort of workaround for
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Kindle
Maybe that
ebooks.
works. Yeah, yeah,
That would be interesting. I'll have to look into
yeah,
that.
yeah.
And
Try
then
try
maybe
it.
you'd have to have a separate Kindle so they wouldn't, interfere
Yeah,
with each
maybe.
other.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Maybe one is for the US and one for the UK.
Yeah, that might be the
Yeah,
way to go.
yeah.
Because for different editions from books in different countries are slightly different. Like words will be different, artwork will be different, and actually, like the
Spelling.
the paper, the textile, the creation of the
Yeah.
paper is different.
It's already 45 minutes. Like maybe we can wrap things up. Like
Mhm.
what can you want to have any take home message for our audience?
Oh,
Like what
sure.
that you want
Oh,
to give?
oh
Yeah.
yeah, my YouTube channel. We got I go off on these tangents, especially when books are involved. So my YouTube channel is about books and reading. Before I became a librarian, when I was an undergrad and in high school, I worked in a bookstore. It don't no longer exists. It was a chain of bookstores called Walden Books. And so, I would try to find people books, and I knew that it was kind of a small bookstore, so it was always fun talking with people, the regular customers, about books. And I could identify books by their cover. Yep, I judged. I judged covers.
Yeah,
But
me too.
I love talking about books. When I worked in some libraries have books and people that are interested in reading. But usually, students and in college and universities, they're so busy with other things. They're not, they don't have time to read, just fun things. Unfortunately. So then I was like, well, I need to talk to somebody about books. I'm in a couple book clubs, and that's fun, but I like different sort of books. So I first tried a podcast a few years ago. I think it was like 2016, 2017. I did a podcast, published a few podcasts. Editing always, slowed me down. Slows me down now on my YouTube channel. It doesn't matter. Apparently, I am not an editor. So when I decided to create a main YouTube channel, that's what I decided to go with, books. And then over the last couple of years, since last year I discovered the secret of the fountain pen. Oh my gosh, they're so much fun. I saw a couple YouTube videos on fountain pens. One was Maurice Moves. I don't know if you know that YouTube channel. He's
No.
Canadian and does all these sort of lifestyle YouTubes, and now he's traveling and stuff. But so I have a few fountain pens.
You have a video on it as well, I think.
I've got a
Yeah.
couple ink ones right now. So about different. Let's see. Oh yeah, different inks. So this was the one. Oh my gosh. So this was like, I thought you could go down like rabbit holes, like get off on the tangents about books, but fountain
Uh-huh.
pens are a whole new level. And so they're really fun because you can't just have one. They're just there's so many different colors and brands and styles, and a lot of them get really creative about boxes and artwork. And so even before you get to the ink, there is so much artwork and so much detailing that goes into them. So I decided I was going to do books and fountain pens, and then a little bit of learning thrown in here and there for students, and how to succeed in colleges and classes and that sort of stuff. So those are sort of my niches right now, and I suspect that they're going to be changing a little bit as I go on. But right now, it's books and fountain pens are the big ones right now. So
So Thank you for your time, Melissa. And those wants to see Melissa's YouTube channel, the
Mhm.
link is below at the description box. So
Oh,
thank you
thank
so
you.
much for your time and being
Oh, you're
here.
very welcome. Thank you so
Yeah,
much, Danielle.
thank you. I see you.
Yep. Have a good day.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.